All right, welcome everybody. For today's investors episode, we have our excellent panel here. We're going into the subject of wholesaling. We're going to talk about buyers, how to get buyers for your deals. We're going to talk about sellers and how to talk to your sellers. And we're going to talk about the individual experiences of the individuals here and how they've grown their wholesaling career to become what it is today in their markets. So check out our episode.
Check it out. You guys need to see this. It's going to be good.
Yep.
You don't want to miss this.
Not at all.
That's right. Well, welcome everybody. Today we are having a very special episode of Today's Investor. We have a whole panel here focusing on the topic of wholesaling. So we have some of the top wholesalers in our local market, which is San Antonio, that are going to give a little bit of their insights, a little bit of their experience, and some of the lessons they've learned along the way to give you, the audience, some excellent information that you can apply to your own business, and maybe, hey, you can become a wholesaler as well. So welcome. I want to start off by letting everyone kind of introduce themselves. Manuel, if you want to go ahead and start.
Hello everyone, my name is Manuel Cerrillo. I can go by Manny. I'm born and raised here in San Antonio. My parents are from Mexico. We obviously have Mexican restaurants here in San Antonio, so we have authentic food.
The best Mexican restaurants.
There you go.
That's right.
And so I obviously was just growing up, San Antonio, went to Southwest, and then from there went to Texas A&M, College Station, graduated my bachelor's in 3 years for veterinary medicine. And from then I was at the Retama Equine Hospital when I realized, I was like, wow, I was working a lot of hours, being on midnight surgeries. I love doing surgeries in the middle of the night, but after trying to have a family, I was like, this ain't gonna do it for me. And so at that point, I was like, I had to do something where I wanted to change my lifestyle, and thank God real estate was the avenue, because I started studying wealth, and wealth from what people have is like real estate underneath their belt, and I was like, this is what I gotta do. That's how I got started.
Real estate's the key, definitely. Awesome. Dan?
Hi everyone, my name is Dan Diaz and I own a real estate investing company. It's called Tomatodo Ventures and Acquisitions. We were founded in November of 2015, which is when I can say that we began officially as a real estate investing company. We do wholesaling here in San Antonio. We also do creative owner financing as well as a few other avenues. But wholesaling is something that always gets me very excited because it's an area that people can start immediately and can start creating cash right away.
Wholesaling gets a lot of people excited.
Yeah.
And Dan was on a previous Today's Investor episode, so by high demand, we have him back here again today.
I appreciate you having me here.
All right, and if you two want to introduce yourselves as well.
My name's Evans. I'm born in Virginia but raised here in San Antonio. Graduated from Holy Cross. Went into the Air Force right after. After that, mainly been in sales my whole life, car sales, investment sales like 401ks, life insurance, stuff like that. But then I got into real estate working for a builder here in town called KB Homes, worked in their corporate office for a while in '08. And I didn't know at the time that was like the worst time to get into real estate.
Perfect timing.
But I had a really good year that year because I just didn't know I didn't know it was a bad market.
That's awesome.
I just wanted to be in real estate. And but then I learned about investing, and that's really where I knew I needed to be if I wanted to create any kind of wealth like Manny said. So and then we met Angela and we started our company.
The awesome company. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your all's company.
The name of our company is Pond Properties, and my name is Angela Longoria, formerly Angela Marrero, which I used to be a senior escrow officer, so I spent 20 years in the escrow world.
She closed my deals back in the day.
Yes.
That's how I was able to do any successful deal because I didn't know what I was doing. Angela guided me through the process.
I kind of got my start in investments with the clients that I was closing. And since it became my niche, I had a lot of investor clients. And so I spent so much time closing them and watching everybody else build their wealth, and I just decided that it was time for me to get into the business as well. And that's where Evans and I met. We're closing, and he brought a deal to me, which we'll kind of talk about later. And it just kind of went from there. I decided that I needed to make real estate investing something that I did full time to allow myself more freedom, because in the escrow world you don't necessarily have that. And made the switch 2.5 years ago, and here we are.
That's awesome. So like the perfect way to get into the real estate investing business by being
Yep.
the escrow officer. That's awesome.
Yep, just took my knowledge and kind of moved it over to the other side and went from there.
Excellent.
Nice.
So this episode, we are talking about wholesaling specifically. There's a lot of different ways in which you can invest in real estate. You have people that do flips, you have rentals, you can do owner financing. And wholesaling isn't talked about as much in the main scheme of real estate investing, but it's a great opportunity to get involved in real estate investing, especially if you're just getting started. So why don't we talk about what exactly wholesaling is? Evans, you mentioned you've done a lot of sales, so maybe you can kind of talk about what wholesaling is specifically, to define it.
Okay. What my definition, what I believe wholesaling is you as being a principal into the deal, you get a deal under contract, and then you try and you sell your position to another buyer. So that's basically what it is. You're basically trading or selling paper, because you're giving up your position that you agreed to with the seller, and you're selling it to somebody else, and that's really all you're doing.
So basically it's like contract flipping.
Pretty much, yeah. Family house flipping.
Yeah, basically with wholesaling, you have a predetermined price with your seller. Let's say it's $40,000. The house might be worth $90,000, and then you find a third-party investor over here who would purchase that property for $45,000, and there's a $5,000 spread, right? And so you allow that investor to take your position in the contract, and then you as a wholesaler collect the $5,000 assignment fee, right? Mm-hmm. So tell me, why are y'all either doing wholesaling or incorporating wholesaling into your business that you're doing today? Did you have any points on that?
Well, wholesaling is a unique and kind of like a number one strategy that anyone should incorporate, because it's an easy and quick exit to make fast cash. For example, some deals you can't buy them all. Well, at least you've got the property under contract. You're in the position to where now you can sell your position in the deal. So you wholesale the contract and make your little quick assignment fee, and then you can move that money and reinvest in another deal. But wholesaling is a good strategy to where you're always making fast cash, pretty much. And along the way, you're gaining a lot of experience for every deal. Every deal is a different story, and you got to keep learning. So it teaches you without actually putting up money. The money you put up is earnest money. So
low risk
and high rewards, where you can just right away negotiate a good deal under contract and then wholesale it to a back-end buyer. And it's a strategy that you should keep in your investing world, because if things go south, that's a good exit to be still in business.
That's right.
In my case, I use wholesaling as one of the tools to generate cash and to capitalize from the leads that come into my pipeline. If you're going to be doing a real estate investment company and you're going to be professional about it, you're going to be throwing a wide net to get leads. And that wide net might have different strategies. It might have a fix and flip strategy. It might have a rental strategy, a buy and hold. It might have an owner finance strategy. It might have a short sale strategy. It might have a ton of different strategies. So you can't do it all. You might have focused on fix and flips, or you might have focused on buy and holds, or you might focus on owner finance. Well, what do you do with all of those leads? Do you just say, well, I can't do anything with them, just pass them along? No. You've spent hundreds, probably thousands of dollars per month bringing in those leads, put them under contract, and then go ahead and sell that contract. So it's a great way to, recapitalize your marketing fund for the leads that you do bring in and get rewarded for it, even if they don't necessarily meet your portfolio. So I love wholesaling because of that. It allows you to recoup marketing money. I don't know about everyone else here, but I spend thousands of dollars per month on marketing, and any reputable real estate investment company will spend thousands of dollars in marketing. So how do you get some of that money back?
Right. Quickly.
Wholesaling. Yes, quickly.
Quickly.
Without really having to do a whole lot. If I know that you do fix and flip, for example, I don't do fix and flips. You cannot get me to do a fix and flip. So if I come across a property that needs a major rehab, well, I might know him that he does a fix and flip. I might say, hey, I got this great contract. I think the numbers work for you. Do the numbers work for you? Great. Are you comfortable paying me $5, $6, $7, $8, $10,000 for you to get this contract? And if he says yes, well, great. I made a little bit of money. I gave him a great deal. He didn't have to spend marketing money generating that deal. So it's a win-win situation. And we're able to help the homeowner, the seller, which is great.
Yeah, wholesaling is definitely a situation where it can be a win-win for sure. So I know with y'all, you do, from the investing standpoint, you do a couple different strategies. How does the wholesaling component fit in with y'all?
I like the wholesaling aspect because we both believe that it's not good to put all your eggs in one basket per se. We kind of have, our whole portfolio has a mix of owner finance, we have subject twos, we have several rentals, and that's throughout Texas. And wholesaling, again, like they mentioned, is a quick way to get recoup costs for any type of business. But at the same time, I think it allows you to grow your network because you can find through that what type of deals people are buying. And also, if it doesn't necessarily fit the direction that you're going to at that time, then you can find somebody, or somebody who this property would be perfect for. And if the numbers work, then of course it sells very quickly.
Yeah, you're right. I like the point that you made where it keeps you in touch with your network, kind of keeps your finger on the pulse of your network, because the buyers in town are always adjusting. Maybe they're looking more in this type of property, or they've stopped buying flips, now they're focusing on rentals, and it can be a key into, hey, maybe I need to make that same shift depending on what they're doing too. So it's always good to keep in contact in that regard. So since y'all also are doing a lot of other investments, how do you decide which property is going to go towards, in your investment portfolio, or that you're going to wholesale it yourself? How do you make that decision?
I would probably leave that question to Evan, because he does a lot of the sales and the numbers. So
He's like, depending on how far we drive to get there.
Everything in Texas we'll handle.
I look at when I look at buying and holding versus flipping, I look at what's going on in those current markets. In the markets in like Corpus Christi, those markets aren't doing what San Antonio is doing, or like an Austin market's doing. So really it just depends on the temperature of that current market. And even there's micro markets in each city. Some areas in San Antonio are better to buy and hold versus some areas are better to flip. So it really comes down to that individual property, and also the numbers. Depending on what the numbers are. Sometimes I will we'll have a buy and hold in the area that we wouldn't necessarily have, but because of the numbers and how it works out and how we acquire the deal, we'll also put that to determination.
No, that completely makes sense.
I also think that it helps us decide when we have people asking for a specific type of product, because we have a lot of people calling and asking or messaging us looking for, X amount of dollars in this type of neighborhood, or I'm looking for this type of property. And if we come across that, then we know exactly that there's a buyer right there. So we have that, and that's kind of where it goes back into making sure that you're in touch with your network at all times, because you know who's looking for what. So if you get that property under contract, then it can be immediately sold.
No, that's completely true. I know for myself, when I do any wholesaling, the way I'm able to determine which deals and which I'm going to be doing a wholesale on is having more of a defined nature on what I'm investing in. So if there are particular areas that I know I will not invest in that area, or having a better idea that I don't want to be, let's say, over 150,000 ARV, then I know any house that's in that area I don't want to buy in, or any house that's $200,000 ARV or more. Those are not in my investing criteria, so that's out of my defined zone. So those are immediately pushed out into the wholesale.
For me, it's very similar, and I think everyone kind of touched on it. For me, it's just two questions: can I buy it, and do I want it? And if the answer is yes, I can buy it, and two, yes, I want it, well, then I keep it and I close on it. But if the answer is I can't buy it, I don't have liquid and available cash at the moment, or access to cash, or I don't want it for all the reasons that you mentioned. It's not in the area, it's not in the ARV, it's not in your comfort level. It's in the Texas Panhandle. I stick to San Antonio. Then it gets wholesaled. It's very very simple.
Or if it's like a funky layout, or maybe it has more than half of the house as an addition, maybe that might not be the rehab you want to take on at that time.
Yeah.
Something like that. So you had mentioned earlier, Manuel, that you were actually more in the veterinary side of things, and then you were doing surgeries at midnight. That's crazy. I never even considered surgeries at that time of day. Tell me a little bit of how you officially made the transition, because there's a lot of people out there that maybe have considered real estate investing and haven't are looking for their way in, and that might be a powerful story.
Yeah, so the transition that's what makes me where I am today, obviously. The fact that, oh my goodness, like I still remember the time where I was working at that job, bought myself a car, brand new. I was like, wow, I'm starting to get myself like into this corporate world where you're gonna start building up debt and I just wanted financial freedom and a lifestyle.
Sure.
But working the veterinary was satisfying and helping the animals, but at the same time, I wasn't helping myself and for my family growth. So that's where I saw the transition as to I don't see myself growing here, or I don't see myself down the road being able to provide a good family lifestyle, to travel, to do the things I want to do, spend more time with my family, stuff like that. I was like, wow, this is not going to allow it. I was on call 24/7, having to leave wherever I was at. All right, hey, come in for surgery. And I would go in. And I was like, I was like, after a while, I was getting old. And
I can imagine.
So thank God, at that point, I right away had to start talking to my network. It's like, hey, what's going on? Like, how is it that people that have horses are wealthy, or they got having a horse is a luxury. So they knew. I was like, what's going on? Like, how do y'all keep up with y'all's horses, or what? What's the streams of income? What's going on? Like,
How do you have money to pay me?
how do you have money? And it's like I started studying wealth, the wealthy people, and guess what? They all have real estate of some sort underneath their belt. In their portfolio, there's real estate. Doesn't matter how or what, they did some investing in real estate. So that sparked an interest. I look back at my dad. My dad, only going to middle school, has a bit, I would consider my dad a wealthy man. Real estate is what got him there. So I had to make the transition. Thank God, I got Rich Dad Poor Dad book. That also helped a lot,
That's what started it for me too, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah, it starts it.
Read that book.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Twice.
Once a year.
Twice a year.
Because you need to know exactly where you fit in the economy, where you fit in financially, where you fit your product and services, and you got to know where that is. And real estate, it's what it does to create the lifestyle you want. You make your first deal, wow, you're like, this is what I wanted to work for and live for, and it just produces that high energy to go back and do it again. So real estate, it came through that, and building a portfolio is what it's all about too. Create the cash flow, consistent cash flow in any business to create the lifestyle you really want.
Yeah, definitely. I know for me personally, wholesaling is where I started, and the reason that I chose wholesaling as the starting point was because I didn't really have any money to go buy a rental, and my experience was on the lower end. And by wholesaling, it was a great opportunity to find investment quality deals, because you're selling these to investors. And since you're doing that, clearly that's a deal that would work for an investor. So that potentially could be a deal in the future if I found an identical one that could work for me. So I'm learning how to find investment deals, but at the same time, I'm bringing in $3,000 checks, $5,000 checks, or even higher than that, $10,000 plus. and by accumulating those, you're able to build up your bank account and eventually funnel that into your first rental, or funnel that into your owner finance, or do a subject to next, and then start building from there. But you don't really have any of the risks. The only risk that you have is the money that you might put up for earnest money, which can be as low. I typically do like $10 on my contracts.
Why do you do that much?
Yeah, right. Well, I need to show them a little bit, right? But yeah, or option money, that kind of thing. So it's a great opportunity in that manner. So when it comes to wholesaling, there's two aspects. There's the seller side and the buyer side. So just generally, if we can just kind of talk down the line here, generally, what do you do to try and find some sellers, to where if somebody were watching, they can take some action and try and find some sellers themselves?
I've developed a very simple 4-step process that has worked very well for me. I learned it from a very successful wholesaler. And I remember that what he said is 99% of people, what they're going to do is they're going to find possible distressed leads. Maybe they're behind on taxes, maybe they have city liens, they have something that might indicate that they might be primed for selling, and they'll mail letters or
Looking for
postcards.
motivation.
Correct. And they'll stop. They'll mail them for months, sometimes years, but they'll stop at that. So he taught me a very, very efficient 4-step process, which is basically find the motivated lead, and whatever your metrics may be, it might be behind on taxes, it might be behind on mortgage payments, it might be overgrown grass, it might be vacant, abandoned. Find the owner, and that's where a lot of people miss that step. They simply mail. You have to find the owner. Most of the times, these people, they don't really want to be found. They might have been harassed by the city to clean up their house. They might be harassed by their neighbors to fix up their yard. They've abandoned the property. I mean, who abandons a home? So they don't want to be found, but find the owner. Do deed searches. Go to websites. Use social media. Ask the neighbors. I tell the people that work for me that you need to talk to 10 neighbors around them, 2 on each side and 6 up front. Somebody knows who they are, who the owner is, and where they can be found. Because what does a person do if they've left or abandoned a property? There's going to be one neighbor that they trust, that they like, that say, hey, if you see something suspicious, here's my number, call me.
Well, not only that, in addition to it, just talking to the neighbors, you can get a lot of history on the property.
Yes.
History that you wouldn't necessarily
Don't spill the
by
beans.
dealing with the seller. So
They were waiting for someone to talk to.
Yes. So it's really good to do that.
So find the owner, make an agreement, and sell the agreement. That's really what it comes down to. And when it comes to making the agreement, that's where you can get very creative. It could be a price-based agreement, that would work well for a cash sale. Or it might be a term-based agreement, where you could say something along the lines of, well, I'll pay you X amount of money if you want your money now in 30 days or less, or I'll pay you a little bit more if you allow me to pay you in a year or 2. I've done those. Essentially what you're doing is you're creating a note and their owner financing it to you, but I don't want to use that many terms. It's just...
That's a big point. A lot of people don't even consider that component, and that could be the method in which that they'll agree.
I don't do rehabs, but I know, this is one of the reasons I don't do rehabs, but I know that hard money points and interest, it's a lot. So if I can get a deal under contract, a few $1,000s more, with the component that you can pay in a year or 2, that would probably be advantageous to a flipper. So you don't have to go out and get a hard money loan except for the rehabbing costs. So those are the components. Find a lead, find a distressed motivated lead, find the owner, and that will take time. That you gotta be a detective. You have to dig and dig and dig, but find the owner, make an agreement, and sell the agreement, and boom, you just did a wholesale deal.
I know that when I first started, a lot of people talk about doing mailers, so that's kind of where I was originally focusing. And one of the ways in which you can do mailers is buying lists online. There's a bunch of different websites. One popular one is listsource.com. But what I did, my wife and I, when we were first starting, is we dedicated like 4 or 5 or 6 Saturdays in a row. And we every Saturday just got in the car and then just drove up and down pre-selected areas, driving for dollars, and we customized our own mailer list, which took a lot of work, but has been our most effective list. It was basically customizing because we didn't really have the money, so we're able to trade in the time and build out a list of, in this area we know all the vacant properties or all the ones that look like they need help in some manner, and so we constantly send them letters.
So it gives you an advantage.
Yeah, definitely. Do y'all incorporate mailers on your side of the equation?
Well, we started to in the beginning, but in markets like San Antonio, the return wasn't. It wasn't.
Yeah, there's a lot of people doing
Yeah,
it.
and the main reason why we stopped is one day I went to a house that I got we got another way, not through sending letters, but the guy had a stack. I mean, like just stack, and he was like, how do you make yourself different? Like he's like, hey, you're just another stack on a paper in the pile. And so once I saw that, we got to go a different way because there was literally 10 other letters on the table. And so, but we really do the drive for dollars. I really like that way because it's free, and it's. I feel like it's a really good effective list because you know that house is vacant, and like you said, you can talk to neighbors around you, and you really will get really good deals. And that's how we found some of our best deals.
I
It's
personally
free.
like the driving for dollars. Is not only is it free, but you have the opportunity to learn the neighborhood. You have the opportunity to learn the area and know what type of neighborhood and purchase that property would be, regardless of the price. Because you go into certain neighborhoods and it's a rental neighborhood, so you're not going to go in there as a flip with that flip mindset. If you're doing driving for dollars, then you know exactly the particulars on the deal, which makes it a lot easier to market it to an end buyer.
And sometimes you get the bonus. There's a for sale by owner sign
Yes.
that's sitting
We
there
have that
in the
too.
corner that they think that's going to be enough to sell their house,
Yeah.
but they're over here like on a dead end street, and you can call them and they haven't gotten many phone calls and they're ready to talk to you, and that could be a deal.
We had a deal like that in Lone Star area.
No, there you go.
We were just driving by. It was a little quadplex, and the lady owner died. The people inherited it, and we got it for super cheap. We kept it for maybe 6 months and almost doubled our money. We didn't put any money into
That's
it.
awesome.
So it was yeah.
I'm a big fan of finding the owners. I remember this one property that I found the owner, put it under contract. I wholesaled it. It was a rehab. It wasn't for me. But the irony is that I later found out that the investor that I had wholesaled it to was the same investor that had been mailing to them for 2 years. And it was the same investor that
That's
had
fun.
actually put a "We Buy Houses" sign in front of that house.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And they didn't, I don't want to say they didn't take the step, whatever the reason is, they did not go above and beyond to find the owner. Another really great example is I recently wholesaled a property, and digging through the property, I found a drawer, and I pulled it out, and it had lots of mail. Well, I went through the mail, and I noticed that there was, and I counted them, 85 pieces of mail, letters, postcards, notes. Believe it or not, the lady kept them for some strange reason, but they were there. So people have been mailing, investors have been mailing to them for 4 years. They were behind on taxes for 4 years. They had been mailing to them for 4 years. And I asked the son, I made the negotiations with the son. I said, just out of curiosity, why did you decide to work with me? Obviously, there are 85 other people, at least. I don't know if they were different.
Well,
investors
86
or
was the
not.
magic number.
That's right.
And you know what he said? He says you're the first person that called me, that found me, that I had a conversation. He says, I didn't know that it was his mom's house. He goes, I didn't know that my mom had received all those pieces of mail. All she does with her mail is put it in the drawer. And so to me, that was like, I can't imagine how much time and energy and resources those other investors spent mailing to them, and not one of them made an attempt to contact the owner. And because I did that ended up being almost a $20,000 deal.
I think in addition to contacting them, I think it's once you do make contact, it's sitting down and listening to their story.
Yes.
A lot of people just want to be heard. They want to understand. They want to tell their story to someone. They didn't end up in that distressed situation overnight. So what they're looking for is to lend somebody to lend an ear. And if you are able to offer a solution that nobody else has suggested or they haven't even thought of, I think that's gives you a great vantage point. We have one in particular where the woman had met with 4 different agents. Everybody just said, okay, we're gonna list your house at this dollar and that's it. And she's in a distressed situation. She called from one of our marketing pieces, and when he went and met with her, he offered a different approach to it. And in addition to the different approach, she needed to move and she needed to rehome her dogs, which were pretty much her babies. So within a matter of, I think, 72 hours, we found a home for her dogs, and which allowed her that freedom and peace of mind to kind of, go that extra step, and we have our house under contract right now.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's a story. So that's perfect. You're talking about negotiating the part of the equation, which is where you're communicating with them and you're trying to get to a price. But it's not really, hey, we're trying to get to this number, which that's a component of it. And it's not really, I'm just trying to buy your home. Mm-hmm. It's more of finding out the individual, talking to the person. The house is just a subset of the individual and their situation. But yeah, tell me a little bit for you, Manuel, about your process when you're talking to a motivated seller. Are there any particular components in which you make sure to cover, or items that you want to go over when you're talking to a seller?
So yeah, when I'm talking to a seller, the first things first is that I make sure we establish the relationship of trust. You gotta make sure that they can trust you from the get-go, that you're nice, friendly, and that you're building rapport. Building rapport is just more than like carrying a conversation and actually caring. Having the care that you're gonna help this person, because that's what they wanna see. They're trying to test you. Are you gonna be able to solve my problem in the situation I am? And so if you're out there and you're in front of them and you're having this nice conversation and you're really giving them good pointers on how you can help them to get out of this situation, then that's how you really build a rapport and they trust you, and then you get a property under contract at that moment. So I mean, a lot of times it's just, you gotta, that's why we have 2 years. You gotta listen more than we talk. So you gotta be able to build rapport with these sellers to really establish that trust. And by all means, that's what you differentiate from a lot of others versus someone coming in just, hey, I'm giving you the X amount. No, it's like, hey, let's chit chat for a bit. Let's talk, and they'll be gladly to talk and tell you the story of the house, and everything unravels at that point, and that's the magic right there.
Right. You want to be able to sit down and understand their position, understand where they're coming from, and what their end goal is. Mm-hmm. Not everybody wants to sell their home, but they realize at the pretty much last moment, or it's a dire situation, and if you offer suggestions or different tactics or just a helping hand, even like I said with the dogs, rehoming the dogs to a good home, or helping them find another place to live, or helping with costs so that they can actually get the money to move into the next place. Simple things like that can actually make or break the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I don't talk price. Hardly is that's not my thing. I find out what, like they say, what's their pain. How can I help them? What's their problem? And then depending on what they say, will determine what strategy we're going to use. And because we are licensed as a real estate agent, we have a little more tools in our toolbox to help some people, because sometimes we can't buy it, or I know I can't wholesale at the number they need it to be, because maybe they're going into foreclosure and they can't take anything less, So what do you do there as a wholesaler? You can't wholesale that property. But if you list it on MLS, right now, because the market's hot, it can sell. So every situation is a little different. So
Adjusting to them and their needs.
Yeah, and it's not just going there like I can pay cash, because everybody can pay cash nowadays. Whether you got hard money or cash, everybody's telling them the same message.
Sure.
So and they still haven't sold. So cash isn't really their main thing there.
I agree. I had a seller a while back, and I agree 100%. I actually leave the price or the numbers per se until maybe later on in the conversation. I had this one seller that, long story short, she was behind on payments. She knew she was going to be foreclosed, And in talking with her, what I realized that her biggest problem is that she was a single mother who worked 2 jobs, who loved her kids, you know, and the kids were still living with her, but she had nowhere to go. Not because of income, just because of schedule and you know, lack of education and what have you. So long story short, I found out that the priority was that the children stayed in the school district. We found an apartment complex. I helped her with the application. I went ahead and paid first month's rent and deposit. I went ahead and rented a U-Haul truck, and I went ahead and made arrangements for movers to help her with the move. And then I said, and all this can be done.
But did you find a home for her dogs?
She had no dogs.
All right, we'll let
She had no dogs. She had kids. Found a home for the kids.
there you go, there you go.
And then after all that, I went into the numbers. And it turned out that that was a smoking hot deal. ARV was right around 120, 130. She went ahead and sold it to me subject to. She just wanted me to take over payments. The balance on it was a whopping $58,000. And it needed no repairs whatsoever. Maybe just a good cleaning. And you know, when I finally saw what the end result was, I was very truthful. I was honest with her. I said, you know what, there's a good chance that I could make a substantial amount of money, no guarantees, but stay in contact with me. And I did, and I went ahead and wholesaled it for a nice amount of money, and I looked her up again, and I said, here's a little extra. I know we didn't talk about it, but, you know, this was a great deal for me, and you were very, you know, cooperative, and you were very happy. And you know what she did? And this proved to me that it wasn't about the money. You know what she did with the check? She was so grateful at how I had treated her and how everything happened that she donated that money to her church.
Oh, wow.
So it's not about the money. I mean, many times it's really not about the money. Oh, I was blown away. You know, just great heart, and she was super happy. She was happy that her bills were lower. She was happy that her kids stayed in the school district, which was very important to her. You know, and it just worked out well.
Kind of, to touch on what you said, when you are able to help a seller who's not familiar with the real estate world, and you pretty much go above and beyond what the others are willing to offer, that leaves an impression on them, because it's not every day that somebody just lends a helping hand. And if you're able to work something out with them, you've already planted that seed. And so once they, you know, you get referrals by it, because that person will always know somebody or somebody else, or hey, guess what, I just sold my house, and then, oh, you know what, I'm looking to sell my house too. Well, this company bought my house and I didn't have to do any repairs. And then it's just kind of a domino effect from there.
Easy way to get referrals is when you treat somebody right. So let's flip the other side of the coin now. So now we've talked to sellers. Let's talk about the buyer side, the investor selling the contract or flipping the contract to an investor. Let's talk about how we approach that. You kind of had a little bit of a head start, though. You had a pretty
I did.
extensive network.
She had a list of 400.
Yeah.
Because of my escrow years and closing for many clients, I knew what clients bought where, and I knew what clients or which buyers wanted particular types of properties. And I also knew who would lend money, because I mean, I closed them for so many years. And so when we put our heads together and we started getting deals under contract, I used that to my advantage. I knew this person wanted that. I knew this person wants this. Oh, he won't touch that. And, you know, and so it just you kind of tailor your list, and you know what type of product you have, and you know the first go-to person. And it works great, because you don't have to blast it out. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, you just literally make one phone call and that property's sold. So it works great for us.
And they appreciate it too, because they know that you know what they're looking for, and you're looking out there for homes on behalf of them, in a sense.
It is very important what she says, to know who's buying where. I recently wholesaled a property. He helped me with it. But it was great, because I literally put it under contract Thursday in the morning, about 11 o'clock in the morning. I made a phone call. I knew there would be about 3 people who would likely be the buyers. The first one that I made a phone call, he was there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the earnest money was deposited into the title company at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's very, very important that you know who's buying where, and that only happens by networking, shaking hands, kissing babies, making friends. You got to go out and ask. Bandit signs are great. So to put a bandit sign that says, I buy houses, find out, are they a wholesaler or are they a cash buyer? Call them.
That's another thing. You know that if that buyer, whether or not has readily cash readily available,
Liquid and available.
or if this particular buyer only does hard money, or if this particular buyer that is just going to try to wholesale it again, you want to make sure that you're calling on the right people for the right deal, because you don't want it to sit very long and your inventory turns a lot faster.
Yeah, you want to get in and get out as
Right.
quickly as possible, and the better that you have connections with people, the quality of people that you have of your buyers, the more readily available you'll sell houses like pancakes, And
that helps the seller too. And
Yeah.
so it's a win-win for everybody.
exactly. And obviously, when with your buyers, I mean, the benefit to them is really that there's being served up on a silver platter, a nice smoking hot property that they're gonna have profits on the back end. They didn't spend no time marketing. They didn't spend no time negotiating with the deal. They didn't spend no time anything. They have the property right here. Hey, do you want it? And the buyer will then say, hey, yeah, give me that deal and I'll take it. So it's a win-win for all.
How would you all suggest to a newer person, let's say they're just starting out in wholesaling, they did all their marketing, they got a deal, they got it contracted, but they really don't have any buyer lists. What would you all say to that person to start getting the deal out there and start building their buyers list so they can sell that first property?
I would suggest networking. That's just my personal. Networking it's a great place to start, and it doesn't cost anything to show up to different events. You literally sit there and network with different people, and you just add them to your list, or even something as simple as Facebook. You won't believe it. Hey, I've got a property in this area. Anybody interested? And you'll get people coming.
That's the new
knocking.
network.
That's the new
Right.
network
Right.
right now.
Yeah.
I think it depends on you as a person, because I'm not that networker guy. So networking wouldn't work for me. Like going
I don't
to
know, man. I've
meetings-
seen you at those events. You
No.
have like your groupies that follow
No.
you around.
Yeah, going to those meetings won't. I'm not that person. But and sometimes you're limited to the members in that, right? If you just go to networking, and there's so many ways you can build a list online if you want to, because you can do it virtually, or if you want to do banner signs. There's so many different ways. So you need to find out what your type of person you are. If you want people calling you, or are you okay chasing people? And you can call real estate agents. That's something that's free because they have buyers as well, and you can leverage their network. And that's a big way that I like to use.
Yeah.
And it's again, it's free. A lot of these ways are you don't have to pay for this. So that's one way I like to do it.
Yeah.
And what he said about contacting agents, it's been great for us. You leveraging their network, and it's not necessarily something that's at the forefront of your mind, but it's been a great help for us.
Especially in the upmarket, they're looking for deals off MLS for their clients, and they're not normally in the investing world.
That's a
So
great
if
point, yeah.
you're an outlet for them to bring their clients off-market deals, they're gonna love you.
I have so many agents that are telling me, if you bring me your deals first, because everybody puts their deals on MLS. If they're buying on MLS, then that's not a good deal. And
Really? Come on.
I mean, that's just where we're at in today's market. And
If you get it at that price, so there's no negotiating.
most of the time, yes. But if you have a market if you have a deal that's off market, that's probably a really, really good deal right now in today's market.
What I tell newbie wholesalers, depending on where you're at in San Antonio, it's going to be the first Tuesday of the month. Go to the auctions downtown,
Yeah, that's a good strategy.
and you're not there to buy. Please don't buy. Even if you have the money, you're there to find out who's buying. And once you start seeing, XYZ person bidding actively on 2 or 3 properties, they have to pay cash.
Yeah.
They can't do a hard money loan, and they're dealing with the city, so they can't be jerking around on their money. They have to have the money, and if they're bidding, they're ready to buy. So approach them and say, hey, I saw you bidded on a couple of properties. I've got 1 or 2 deals that I'd love for you to take a look at. And the thing is, when it comes with money, what I've observed is that even cash buyers, they seem to have a ton of money at one time, and then they buy their assets, and then they don't have money for an X amount of months. And then they have a ton of money when they sold those assets. So literally, who could be buying this month might be a different person than who could be buying next month. So go to the auction and see who's buying. I mean, those are your real legit. Those are not wholesalers.
Yeah.
You know, those are not, you know, hard money lending purchasers. They got cash.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Get with them right when they lose one of the auctions. When they're in their lowest and be like, hey, I got a deal right
Don't
here
worry, I
for
got
you.
you.
This
Even
one's
better.
better anyway. Yeah. I would actually say for somebody new starting out, leverage other wholesalers. That's something
Co-wholesaling.
That's a good one.
Co-wholesaling.
Because there's probably a ton of wholesalers that are already established in your market, wherever you are, it doesn't matter. And if they're currently in wholesaling, they're already wholesaling, they have the experience, they've already been building a network, and you just need to have access to their network. So just communicate with them. Some will just put their price point, their fee on top of your fee, so you get your full fee anyway. Or you can just have a conversation with them and say, let's do a 50-50 split or whatever you two agree upon. But they'll do the work on bringing you the buyer, and you can even learn from that wholesaler while you're first getting started to figure out what would be some components you can implement on the next deal that you're working on.
That's a very good suggestion. I just had a deal where a wholesaler came to me and said, again, knowing what their market was, they knew that that was not their market at all, but they knew that I dealt with that market. So they said, hey, here's a lead. And I always ask them up front, what do you want out of it if I can materialize it? And we agreed on a price. And I went ahead and contacted them. I made an agreement. I found the owner, put it under contract. And I had 3 people that I knew bought in that neighborhood. Well, as things turned out, 2 of them were really low. And the third one didn't have cash at the time. That happens. So I gave him a call and I said, hey, I got this deal under contract. I've got other stuff going on. You mind trying to look for buyers? We made a quick agreement on what I would pay him if it went ahead and sold. And he got me a buyer in 2 days. So, he leveraged me, the original guy, and I put it under contract, and I leveraged him.
Yeah.
So you gotta network. You gotta push out. You gotta ask. You have to, go out and shake some hands and make some friends. I mean, that's what it's about.
And something is always better than nothing. So
Yes.
when you're JVing on
Yes.
something,
Yeah.
it's always great for everybody else to, and also with new wholesalers, just learning the business. There's no other way to learn than to actually do it. So if you're following, somebody who's already experienced in that type of work, or no matter what it is, just learning from going through the actual process helps you and prepares you for the next one.
That's the truth. You got to take action. There's probably people watching right now that have read a ton of books, probably been to a bunch of seminars, looked at a lot of articles online, and they know all the theory of the information, but they might have that fear component or the doubt in their mind, or not everything is lined up perfectly. They're waiting for that. This perfect time. September is the month I'm going to get started.
September.
Right? And the truth is, you really just need to get started now. Start taking some actions. Do the driving for dollars. Pick a day. Do it this weekend. Go out there, start making some phone calls, meeting with the neighbors, go to some networking events, go to those auctions, meet some buyers, and just get the ball rolling. Meet some other wholesalers, and you'll see that the pieces will start connecting by themselves just due to your action. And
Right.
that's really what you need to do more than anything else. Okay, so y'all have all done some wholesale deals. You've experienced, you've done a lot. You have a name for yourself in the market. Do any of you have some interesting learning lessons or some stories or anything in particular that you...
He's like, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
He does on
He's like, I
wholesaling.
got a list.
He's like, I got the Dead Sea Scrolls of what not to do.
But anything like that, anything that comes to mind that are impactful pieces of information.
I'll tell you my first deal where I learned my hardest lesson. Well, one of my first lessons was my first deal. I got under contract. I got a referral from a builder. Because remember, I'm from the builder world.
That's right.
And I became a realtor. So you just go back to what you know. So I went to all the builders. I'm like, hey, if you have any clients that want to sell their house and they don't want to list it with the realtor, they just want to sell it cash, let me know. And that's a different conversation when you're talking to these builders, because most realtors, when you go talk to builders, they were like, oh, I want to list your client's house so I can upsell you, right? But what about that client who has a nasty house that wants to buy that new house, but they don't want to sell, they can't list it.
That's a good one.
Or
I like it.
no agent wants to touch that. An agent doesn't want to touch that because it's hard to sell. And then when you're with the builder, you have a time frame, you have contingencies, so so I got the referral anyways, and I end up getting on a contract, but I didn't know what really wholesaling was. So I went to her, and I had to double close it. Well, I didn't have to, but I did double close it, and I ended up selling it to net worth. But I didn't have to take that step, and it was like a $2,500 lesson because I didn't know what wholesaling was. I thought you had to get money,
Close it.
and then sell it, because the concept of being able to make money on something that I don't own was just it was a new concept to me.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I just thought, hey, I have to get a loan, because how else can you buy a house? And so I even went out and found a private lender that put up money for me.
Dang, you went all
So
out.
I went all out, and then after we talked, she's like, "You didn't have to do all that. You could." And I'm like, "Well, you tell me now." After we closed, and that was $2,500. So that was my
Yeah.
first deal ever. But it was my first deal, and I just did it. So I would just tell you, go mess up and go do it, and I won't never make that mistake again.
Right. See, he wouldn't have done that. He would have never
Right.
learned that there was an easier way. And
Yeah.
I mean, in hindsight, I wish I would have asked at the time because I was closing. But at the second, when he brought the second deal, I was like,
Why are you
didn't
bringing
you
money?
just wholesale it? And so that's where we had that talk and kind of,
Sometimes you make it harder than
Sure.
Yeah.
because wholesale is super simple, and we think we want to do, or we have to complicate it or make it harder, but you don't have to. It's super simple. So
How about over here?
I think one of the lessons that I've learned is that you really have to know who you're doing business with. And when I mean who you're doing business with is what are the character of the people that you're doing business with. Full disclosure, you need to have everything in writing. I mean, that's just straight up front. However, even when you have things in writing, are they people that will defend their word, defend the intention? Maybe their intention wasn't put in writing, but are they going to be people who are going to keep their intention, or who are going to give their intention up front? I've had several bad situations where I ask the people in front of me, are you actually purchasing this home for your portfolio? Do you have funds? Or are you going to attempt to wholesale it? I don't care, just tell me, because I'll know the exit strategy on the back end. And, I don't know what it is, but, oh yes, I'm a cash buyer, I'm going to close on it myself, blah, blah, blah. And then later on down the line, I'm finding that they're having a hard time closing on it because they never had the cash. They never had the intention of buying it. They never had even the desire or motivation to keep it. So really get to know who you're doing business with. And after a while, there will be relationships where they can be on the phone. I know him and I have done deals where we don't have anything in writing. We just have clear communication as to what the expectation is, and we pay up. But don't do that. You need to have clear communication as to what I expect from you, what you expect from me, what's going to happen if those expectations are not met. And let's put that in writing. Even if it's a napkin, you need to put things in writing.
And I agree with that, because everything is all about agreement. You gotta be in agreement. You gotta be in sync. Clear communication is key. I mean, what's my second or third deal? I think it was where, the back taxes, in the track it has it to where it's prorated from the previous. Well, the seller didn't want to pay because apparently we pay all closing costs, so that was a hit because of unclear communication. So that's a lesson that you just got to know the property as itself, what's the scenario, and how the closing is going to take effect in terms of where is the cost going to, because the costs have to get paid some way, shape, or form. So it's like finding out exactly who's covering that. So that could be a hit, off your profit if you didn't.
Especially if you had a signing in December.
Yeah. So you gotta find out as to, okay, who's gonna cover that, and just know that as to being clear communication. Clear communication saves you from all the problems if you're in clear communication.
I'd like to touch on that only because when I was in the escrow side, I had so many investors, especially new ones, that would come to me and bring deals and never have that clear communication when the contract was originally signed. And so we get to the closing table, and there were...
And they're mad at you.
Yes, they're upset at me, and then I have to explain that I was a disinterested third party, and then,
Very
somebody...
disinterested.
I don't care. So you have your contract, which outlines who's paying what, and you want to make sure that your reputation speaks for itself. Yeah. So if you're pissing people off and you're not being outright and forefront with them, then that person's going to remember that with them as well. And so when they hear your name, it's going to be passed along that same way. And we have this world, this investor world is very small. Everybody practically knows everyone. So you want to make sure that what it is that you're promising or what you're putting out there, the product or even your services, are exactly what you want to be had or said about you, because that's going to speak for itself later on down the line.
Yeah, and I agree, and this is just me, but when I talk to the seller, I try to go above and beyond and explain the process to them, and I've had countless sellers tell me that I'm the first person to do that. So, I'll give you an example. I'll tell them, I can buy at this price, but if the price doesn't work for them or we can't agree on it, I say, well, I may be able to connect through a few other investors at this price. I explain to them what the process of contract assignment is. And that way the expectation is set that, hey, because I am looking who I'm going to assign the contract to, I might not be able to close on the 15 days that we spoke about. That's me being able to buy. Those are my numbers. I know I have the ability to buy at those numbers. But if those numbers cannot be met and those numbers can't be agreed upon, well then I educate them a little bit about what contract assignment is and what's going to happen, and that I won't be the end buyer at the numbers that we're talking about. Of course, they have to be numbers that I know I can wholesale them at. But I've had countless sellers tell me that they appreciate the level of communication that I had with them as to the steps and to the process and to what's going on. I remember this one seller, he says, "It just blew me away. So many people are buyers and so many people have cash." And I'm like, well, there's not that many out there when it really comes down to it. So that's big with me. Lots of communication with the sellers and kind of give them a window of education as to exactly what's happening with their house.
Yeah, I definitely want to reiterate that. When people talk to me about wholesaling and I give pieces of advice, I always make sure to touch on two components. Number one is honesty. You're dealing with a lot of different individuals, and especially on the seller side, this is a very important piece of their life. This house, there's like you were saying earlier, there's a story behind it. There's an integral part in their life of why it is in this situation and where they are, whether it be financially, emotionally, spiritually. And you need to be dealing with individuals with honesty and telling them exactly what you're doing, what's going on, be upfront with them. Same with the buyers. Don't say, hey, I go look at this house when you actually really have it sold and you're trying to get a higher price point, those type of things. Don't do anything like that. You want to be honest and frank, because like Angela was saying, you're building a reputation for yourself. Every deal that you do, every piece of communication you're having, whether it's with the seller or even with the buyer, you're building a reputation for yourself, which will be mentioned to other individuals, and word will get around about you. Or if you do anything shady or bad, people will know and people will avoid you due to that. And then the second thing I tell people is just managing expectations. There are plenty of times where you're talking to a seller and you're like, yes, I can close it in 7 days. And then that 7th day comes around and you're not able to close. If you're doing the constant, under promise, over deliver, you're going to be having a lot of people you're dealing with that are happy to deal with you. If you're telling them you can close in 30 days, but you actually get it done in 14, that's an awesome thing. And same with the buyer. So just be mindful that you're dealing with people, and that you need to be treating each person with respect and with a level of expectation of how you would want to be treated. And if you do that, you'll be successful, even while you mess up and things don't always go right. Especially, on one of my deals, there was a time where I was just being honest and upfront, and I wasn't able to meet the closing time frame. But because I was just honest about, hey, I'm not going to be the one buying it, it's this other investor, he's bringing the funds to the closing table, he needs an extra few days because there was some reason he couldn't get it, the money from his 401k or something, that she was completely understanding. And people give you the benefit of the doubt if you're honest and upfront with them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we've talked about that. Is there any bit of advice for that new investor? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit already previously, but I know there's a lot of fear and action steps. Maybe from your own experiences of getting started yourself, are there any pieces of advice that we can leave people with, and mainly the new investors, since we're talking about wholesaling specifically?
Pretty much, you gotta get up and do it. Take action. That's number one. But also, it's just study, and it's not study, but network with the other wholesalers. Network with other investors. Maybe get a mentor that will teach you this and streamline your first deal. Because once all it takes is to do your first deal, and after that, you're just like it. Just rinse and repeat. So you gotta get up and take action for sure.
Action's key for sure.
Massive imperfect action. I mean, I've talked about it, and I am emphatic when I say massive imperfect action. It's going to be imperfect because you don't know what you're doing, and that's okay. You don't need to know what you're doing, so to speak, the first time around. But just go out and take action. And for you, it might be, driving for dollars. That could be the action. For you, it might be, if your personality is not geared towards it, to go to networking events. For you, it might be doing a list of 100 people that you know and calling them and saying, I'm in the process of becoming a real estate investor, and I've recently connected with a few other investors, and they're looking for these properties. Do you know somebody who may be looking to sell? So, whatever massive imperfect action is required on your part, the scarier the better, and just do it. I mean, you just have to go out and do it, and everything will connect. And once you start having a quality lead, you're going to find out that you're going to have a quality person that'll help you put it together. Then you'll find out that once you have a quality person that'll help you put together, it'll be under contract, and then you'll find a quality buyer. It'll come. I mean, it's the law of the universe. It'll come. If it sees you taking massive imperfect action, all the other components will come. Have faith in it.
I agree. And over here?
I would say it's kind of twofold. I think persistence and dedication is required. A lot of people have the mentality that, you do a couple of things and things are just supposed to fall in your lap, and it doesn't work that way.
It's not always easy.
So, in the investing, although it's a great source of income, it's not something that happens overnight. So you have to work at it, you have to continue going, and eventually it will pay off. And I think that works in all aspects in your life. You need to decide that whether or not that's truly what you want, because if it's not what you want, then you're never going to put the effort that is required to do it. And also I think it's relationships and making sure that you build your team, because you want to have a great closer. You want to have good buyers that you're aware of.
And you're taken.
Yeah.
You're not doing the closing
Not the closing anymore. I can still help a little bit on that side, but I'm no longer closing. But I think it's great. I mean, you should have people that you have for lending. You need to have a good insurance person, because all those components fall into place when you're going to closing from beginning to end. And if you don't have the right person in that one position, it can delay a deal or it can stop a deal. So you want to make sure that you have the right people that are working with you.
Yeah, you know who to call when you experience a problem. That person can help you through it.
Right. And you?
I agree with everybody here. We were talking about action, and you have to take action. But we get asked a lot, I hear a lot from a lot of new investors or people want to wholesale. I need money. They have this concept of well, I can't buy real estate or I can't do what you do because I don't have any money. And I just think that's the wrong mindset.
You got gas money?
I mean, you don't even need that.
If you don't, then yeah, you're challenged. That's another issue.
If you have a cell phone, and if you don't have money, then I think you do need to do wholesaling. That's exactly why you need a wholesale, because if you're telling me that you don't have money, you don't have the funds to do it, well then that's where you need to start. And I think so many people stop themselves from taking any action because they have this thing, well, I don't have credit or I don't have money. Well, I got started with no money, no credit, and now we own a lot of property. So I just think that's where you need to start, is just pick something that you're comfortable with, like these guys talked about, anything that fits your what is it called? What's what I'm looking for? I guess your attitude or what you're comfortable with, and just do that one thing. So if you're good on the phone, then stay on the phone to make phone calls all day long. If you don't like talking to people, or if you do, you can do it online virtually, Or if you don't have a car and you have no gas, then go door knock. I've done that, and that's so effective. So
Know your strengths.
right, just know your strengths, play to your strengths, and then just do that over and over again until you master that craft, and then you can move on to something else.
And you can form a partnership
Correct.
where you have strengths, you have strengths. You
Yeah,
can
that's
find
huge.
somebody that doesn't have your strengths, their strengths in another area, but they complement you and there's a synergy there. And you can be a powerful force in that way too.
And find a mentor. I think he said that, but find, and there's so many mentors nowadays. You can find some online podcasts, YouTube. There's so much free content. You know, this channel, Marco. I mean, there's so many things that you can do nowadays that's available for you that you just listen to it, and it's amazing content. So the mentoring doesn't have to necessarily be right there with you.
I do want to touch on mentoring. I think that's incredibly important, but I would always give a word of caution as to who you pick as your mentor. In our industry, unfortunately, a lot of investors have become professional teachers and professional mentors and may not necessarily be active in the field that they're in. Or you might not have, again, the cash to pay it. You know, I don't know what mentors are charging now, but I've heard, you know, $5,000 up to $50,000 or more. So if you don't have that cash, what I tell people is go find a lead, go find a deal, and take it to someone and work with them, work for them. I mean, that's going to be the cheapest, most effective mentoring that you can find. If you bring me a lead, if you bring Marco a lead, if you bring anybody here a lead, guess what? We're going to be grateful. And I hope I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody, but we'll show you the way through, and we will pay you at the end. So you don't have to pay thousands of dollars to find the right mentor. That might not even
Well,
be
doing
the
it
best
that way, you get paid.
You get paid, yeah.
Yeah. Everybody wins.
So you were saying connecting, mentorship. Let's talk about how people can find y'all. You know, what's the best way in which people can communicate with you if they wanted to get in contact and find out what you're doing and those type of things?
We have a Facebook page called Pond Properties. That's where we pretty much allow everybody to come into our little world of what it is that we do. So you can watch videos, you can see different promotions that we have, any properties that we currently have available. We also have an Instagram page, Pond Properties. Right now we're revamping our website, so that's not up. We took it down for a while. We're changing the look of it. But
New and improved.
yes, new and improved version. And then we have our direct numbers. So, I mean, all of our information is online. We're pretty transparent, so we show everything that we do from beginning to end. So.
And their Facebook page is a lot of fun. They're showing the deals that they're acquiring, the deals that they're selling, and you know, a little fun stuff in there too. So definitely follow them on Facebook. And where can they find you, Dan?
Oh, TexasCashHomebuyer.com. You'll find all of our information there. I do deal a lot on the owner finance side. So if you are a retail buyer and you're credit challenged, but you have a down payment and the ability to make payments, our owner finance page is OFHSA.com, ownerfinancehomessanantonio.com. But otherwise, TexasCashHomebuyer.com is where you can find us in regards to properties that we're buying and getting a cash offer.
Excellent. And Manuel, where can they find you?
They can find me at txrealestatedeals.com. That's where I have my, get to sign up, get awesome deals from me. Also, I'm good at connecting on the phone, so it's best to get me on the phone. Call me. I answer my phone all the time, so that's never a doubt. So they can reach me on my cell phone at any time. Will they have the link on the bottom, or?
Yeah, we'll put it up there.
Okay.
We might
His
even
number is
just-
911.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
And then I'm in the process of gonna get my Facebook up, but I like to be where people call me. Let's get to connect,
Well, he has so many fans that as soon as he gets a Facebook page up, it's going to be flooded. So
Yeah.
I understand why you're hesitating on that. Well, thank you again, everybody. I want to thank everybody that was here with us today to share your information, share your insights. I know that we gave a lot of great information, and definitely reach out to these people. Don't be shy. They're very open. They're willing to talk to you, and you never know. It's all about building relationships. Definitely follow us at Bella Buyers on Facebook to see more episodes as well, and thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right.
All right. Thank you.